Coming up in our news weekend, just how much money is needed for agriculture in the country. A teen left in hospital after he was beaten by a group of men with a shovel. More from the Pine Ridge MP's contribution to the budget debate, plus NEMA urging residents to stay prepared in the event disaster strikes.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Despite an expected $2 million increase in funding for the Bahamas Agricultural and Industrial Corporation in the upcoming fiscal year, Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources Michael Pintard is insisting they need twice the amount of the funding. Jasmine Brown reveals why in this report.
According to the 2019-2020 budget draft estimates, BAIC will receive a $2.2 million increase in government funding in the 2019-2020 budget. The corporation was allocated $4 million in the 2018-2019 budget and $6.2 million in the 2019-2020 budget. But Pintard says they need much more.
There's a need to increase funding to do the requisite research to collect data so that all policy decisions are made on the basis of empirical data. So that's one big gap. The second is there's a need for us to go to an online platform.
When asked what would be the ideal budget for BAIC, Pintard said this.
We are now working on a solid strategic plan so that we are able to put all of those numbers together. But we can tell you already that twice the kind of funding that we have right now is important, because one of the major gaps in our economy generally, which is why the IDB has been working with the Department of Statistics and every ministry to plug the statistical gap, but one of the big gaps in agriculture and marine resources is really having the required data needed in order to create bankable business plans to help persons who are in business planning to be able to forecast effectively.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources also saw an increase in its consultancy services budget. It was allocated $30,000 in the 2018-2019 budget and $320,000 in the 2019-2020 budget. Asked about the increase, Pintard said the funding will go towards hiring more experts.
And so there's a need to hire more Bahamians, particularly those with first and second degrees, in order for them to discharge the kind of services that they need. We are short of extension officers to service farmers and fishers, somewhere between 14 to 20 extension officers alone. That does not begin to take into account the shortage we have in terms of agricultural economists or agribusiness experts, etc. So all of these are areas where we require more persons.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Police investigating a grievous harm incident that has left a minor in hospital. According to reports just after 2 yesterday afternoon, the young man was walking along Finlayson Street off Ponciana Avenue when he was approached by a group of men, one of whom pulled out a shovel and hit the boy in his head repeatedly, injuring him. The men then fled the scene. The injured teen was taken to hospital where he is listed in serious condition. While making his contribution to the budget debate on Thursday, Pine Ridge MP Frederick McAlpine raised questions over the decision to send several members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force's top brass on pre-retirement leave. Back in March, 8 assistant commissioners of police were sent on leave, a move the opposition has since called politically motivated. McAlpine called the move ungracious.
I'm looking for precedent. We ungraciously vacationized 8, came back and claimed 5 will return. Only time will tell. Notwithstanding that there are still members on the executive and the force with more vacation time yet serving. As a government, we must seem to be fair in our dealings across board and give the appearance and not give the appearance of duplicitous action.
National Security Minister Marvin Dames has since come out defending the move, saying there was no politics involved. He added that it's something that will happen throughout various government entities. Well, McAlpine had a certain request of that minister.
The minister, we can ask, because we're looking for precedent. The minister, if he would, could lay on the table of this House, perhaps, the package when he resigned from the force, who I'm told was paid up front and had more vacation weeks than those who've been vacationized and security of employment before leaving. Better yet, Mr. Speaker, perhaps we could put on the table of this House the package deal given to the last serving commissioner, now serving in the UK. The country seeks to know if there is true conviction and consistency in our current disputes in these matters. Despite all the successes we tout about crime being down, there seems to be a very low morale presently in the police, defense, prison force, and the entire public servants throughout the country, and may also add, perhaps, the judiciary.
Environment Minister ROMAULD FERREIRA says government is still working on legislation that would speak to penalties for cruise ships found dumping waste in Bahamian waters. 2 years after Carnival Cruise Line pleaded guilty to dumping waste into the ocean and covering it up, the company was found in violation of its probation again, this time admitting to 6 violations. One of them included plastic mixed with food waste in Bahamian waters in December 2018.
As the Attorney General indicated, upon coming to office, I've been agitating for this. It's in the hands of the Office of the Attorney General. We've been working with law reform, so we hope to get some drafts going, obviously after the budget period, but this is obviously an urgent priority.
The Bahamas National Trust spoke out against the dumping this past week, recommending that in addition to legislation that would see companies fined or punished for such behavior, government should take it a step further and consider banning companies from doing business in the Bahamas.
You know, and I'd said this before, that type of environmental savagery to totally disrespect our territorial waters like that will never be palatable to the Bahamian people, nor myself for that matter. And so the question is, where do we go from here? And where we go from here is putting together the kind of environmental regulations and the will to actually litigate this on a front burner within the Office of the Attorney General.
Still to come, NEMA looking to get Bahamians ready for a storm ahead of time. Stay tuned.